Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to you all to this graduation ceremony. The ceremony will begin shortly. The Vice Chancellor's procession is on its way. I'm afraid, have a few housekeeping things I just need to run through with you before we start. The first is the dreaded mobile phone. A request, please, if we could turn them ideally off or to flight mode. We have a streaming going on, which is we're having a few problems with today, so the less demand we've got on that, the better. So if you can put it on those, we'd be grateful. Thank you very much. There will be some photography taken throughout your visit here at the graduation, and if anybody has any particular reason why they don't want their images shown by the university, please come and see us, and we'll make sure that doesn't happen. In the extremely unlikely event that we have to vacate the building in a hurry, please remain seated and calm. There are marshals around the whole church who will assist you to get out. Those seated on the stage will make use of a fire exit to the left-hand side of the altar. People on these two blocks will use the tower door that most of the graduates came through, and the people on these blocks will use the main door. But please, just as directed by our marshals, should we need to. When the ceremony is finished, the Vice-Chancellor's procession will leave the church first, followed by the then graduates, and then our VIPs will follow them out. Can I ask the rest of you, if you would mind, please, just waiting for that to happen before you leave the church. More reasons is to not to bottleneck everything as we're trying to get out. And if we can get you out quicker, that means you can get down to the marquee quicker and get some refreshment. And finally, to the graduands, firstly, can I offer my congratulations on your achievements. When you're greeted by the Vice-Chancellor, can you ensure that you look across to the camera by that pillar? There'll be a gentleman with a camera. That's where your official photograph will be taken, so smile and wave there, please. And importantly, when you do leave the stage from the Chancellor, can you go back up through the centre aisle? A, to keep it moving, but B, more importantly, means you get your certificate when you get to the back corner. I think that's all for now. Please enjoy the ceremony. And if I can now ask you to please stand in readiness for the Vice-Chancellor's procession.
I welcome you all on behalf of the University of Buckingham to this convocation for the conferment of degrees. Chair of the Council, Rory Tapner, Mayor, Mayoress, Lords, Ladies, Gentlemen, honorary graduates, friends, family. As the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Buckingham, I'd like to welcome you all and say we are extraordinarily pleased and happy to see you all here at this very special occasion. It is graduation, one of the great days of the life of any student. It's something that you will always remember, and it's appropriate that we spend an hour together in a ceremony that is mostly very formal. It will have its very personal moments in it, and it is a tradition that has been around since shortly after the first university was formed in Europe. Certainly there have been some earlier examples in China, but Bologna in northern Italy in 1088. And shortly afterwards, the tradition of honouring those who had successfully completed a programme of study came to be formed. And the clothes that you are wearing and these come and are refined from the traditions of the medieval church and much of the language, the idea of graduation. You are graduating, you are walking, and there are two steps you are graduating. Step one is from a student to becoming an undergraduate, and the second step up is for graduates to become postgraduates. The language, the customs are deep in the culture of our European nations, and it was Professor David Starkey, one of our two very distinguished academics today, was reminding me just earlier that it was the University of Cambridge that was responsible for refining in the 19th century many of the elements, as it was in fact much of what now is university life. Cambridge was refined that, and the traditions that we have today, and very rightly hold to, came out of Cambridge and then across to Oxford, London and other universities in Britain and Europe. So we are part, and I think it's helpful to see that this is part of a long process, historical process, and that something deep and special is happening. This is not just an ordinary day in all of our lives. For me as Vice-Chancellor, it is without doubt the happiest day of my entire year. There's something very special indeed to be here and to see the eyes of the students, graduates, when they come up and shake the hand. And at that moment, something happens to you. It's not totally dissimilar to what happens in marriage. It's appropriate that we're here in a religious building. And indeed, when you leave, there'll be bells. There's something celebratory about it. And what will happen is that you will change in status, and you'll be forever changed in that you have this degree conferred upon you. And with that comes a real sense of family that you are now part of. There's an ending. Obviously, you finished your exams and degrees and theses some time ago, but this is the formal acknowledgement of what you've achieved. So in a way, it's an ending, but it's also a beginning, as every ending is a beginning indeed. And what's beginning? You're beginning now a relationship with each other and with this university which will endure forever. We will always be part of you, and you will always be part of the University of Buckingham. And that's a very proud tradition, isn't it? Because there are so many things about this university which do make it distinctive. This is in fact the 40th year. Did you know that we've had graduation? So this university founded 42 years ago, and the first graduates meeting in this very building here, this very church, to receive their degrees. One of the earliest figures as Chancellor to confer degrees was Lady Thatcher, Margaret Thatcher, who had been Prime Minister. She was very ambitious, and to have been Prime Minister was not enough for her. She thought a twinkle in her eye. She thought it absurd that she could possibly aspire to becoming something else after leaving Downing Street, but she hoped and manoeuvred and worked towards it. And yes, it happened. She did become Chancellor of the University of Buckingham, the apex of her career. And we are proud to have had Britain's first Prime Minister, first female Prime Minister out of 54, who was here, and the longest-serving Prime Minister of the last 119 years, as our Chancellor here, a very exceptional, distinguished figure. There are many other reasons why we can be very proud of the University of Buckingham, particularly in the year that has just gone by. We have been confirmed as the top university in Britain, ahead, might I say, of Cambridge and Oxford and London and Edinburgh in the excellence of our teaching. I mean, I think that says a great deal, doesn't it, about what it is that makes this university so special that, according to the government's table, and to be honest, we probably have too many tables, but they're there and we have to play that game, we have come top out of 150 universities in the UK, judged for the quality of our teaching. I think that certainly is something that we should be celebrating, and rightly so. Also, our small class teaching has come in for very favourable comment. The fact that we don't teach students in these large groups, but it's very personal. And that's one reason why employment is so high for our graduates. They're used to talking up and speaking up and being articulate. You can't hide away. And I think that reflects the very fact of this ceremony here. As a father of 3 children, we went to 3 graduation ceremonies for our own children, and to be honest, we hadn't a clue what was going on. We didn't know what was happening, and one of with my own parents, one of the rare rows they had is when they were peering down on my own graduation. They tried to work out whether that was me or it was somebody else who was shaking the hand of the Vice-Chancellor, except we didn't actually shake the hand because there wasn't time to do that. We just kind of filed past or brushed past, or as I remember it, being pushed past, actually. Whereas here, as you will notice, we do treat and quite rightly so, everybody as an individual. And yes, it does take a bit more time, actually, to do that. But the great thing about it is that there is that sense of personal warmth. Other features of this last year, the medical school has done extraordinarily well and has received accreditation that means it's now been recognised. The Vincent building that you'll see is our latest new building, and that was the result of an £8 million gift and opened by the principal donor, who was Lord Vincent, and by Frank Field, the Labour MP. See, we don't just have right-wing here, we have liberals and people of all parties. Everybody is welcome in our broad church. Suzanne Cratton, one of our alumnus, was partly responsible for it. We are at the centre of the Oxford-Cambridge arc of universities, and we've helped engineer that. And that's going to be very important in all your lives. Whether you work in Britain or not, you will see the centre of gravity move out from London, coming northwards and westwards. And the arc between Oxford and Cambridge, with Buckingham in the centre. Oxford and Cambridge are 2 universities for those who weren't lucky enough to gain places at Buckingham. We are responsible for engineering that link. This week we had Alexander McCall Smith, the writer and seller of over 40 million copies of his books, and that's just in English. In other languages, some 500 million, was here talking. Last week we had John Bercow, the Speaker of the House of Commons, talking to our students. 70 national and international figures have come up to talk in the last year. We launched at the Houses of Parliament the new institute that we have for the Centre for the Ethics of AI, Artificial Intelligence in Education. AI is going to affect all your lives. Another fact that will affect all your lives is the UN, and we are Britain's first university to have the Centre for UN Studies. And the chair of that is none other than the figure who was Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Lord Mallet Brown. We've held, yet again, last year, the Festival for Higher Education that brings universities from around the country. Here, the Universities Minister was talking at that. Yesterday, our psychology department hosted a national conference in London, and that conference on positive psychology and how we can, frankly, teach our young people in a more intelligent way to develop their characters and their sense of personal responsibility rather than just their exams. And think, how ridiculous to think that by giving young people good exam results, that is the totality of what a good education means. We need to develop character, as Aristotle knew in his heart. We need to develop character alongside. There's not any alternative between an academic education and character education. Both sit side by side. We've had a whole number of festivals here. This year we're launching our fourth. Professor John Adamson, responsible for being the director of our new History Festival. That's our fifth festival that we are having here in Buckingham. Buckingham, well known for being a party and club centre of the southeast of England, is now also going to be known as a festival town. And it's not surprising, therefore, that numbers, and I think this is a great source of pride, to be honest, that numbers at the applications at the University of Buckingham are up 25% for this September, at a time when university applications in general are considerably down, and at many universities numbers are greatly down. And taking the figures since 2015, in the last 3 and a bit years, we are up well over 50% in numbers, again at a time that many universities are contracting, and again great success for our computing. We have the great news that today that we're going to have the funding for a completely new AI computing building that will have the Internet of Things absolutely informing every single aspect of that. So, and we're going to be the first university in Britain to teach degrees using 4.0 technology, which is the whole cluster of technologies, including artificial intelligence, but also big data, Internet of Things, and augmented reality, virtual reality. So there you are. I mean, a university that's rooted deeply in the past, tremendous achievements for what we've been doing in archaeology, all the way to thinking about the future. So let me just say a word now about all of you, those who are receiving degrees today. This is your day. What you have achieved is something that is completely magnificent. As the chair of council, who is deeply versed in university life, constantly reminding me it is unusual, it's very unusual over the whole world to get any degree. You are part of a small minority in the world who have worked intensely hard, and you have achieved remarkable things. You've achieved it because of your diligence, because of your perseverance, every single one of you will have had moments where you wondered why you were doing it, and yet you stuck at it, and you have performed extraordinarily well, and we are deeply proud of you. I'm proud of you, your teachers up on the stage, all my colleagues around this room, and those not present here are enormously proud of you. And I would just like to have just a celebration of you with applause, please. And about the state that you're going to enter, you will become alumni, you will form friends, your friendships that you formed will stay with you forever. You will, in 10, 20, 30 years' time, still have your friends here, that they will be deeper and they will be some of your closest friends, and you will also be, we hope very much, remain close friends with your staff here. It was very touching. At an earlier ceremony today, we had the Vice President of Ghana, who was here as a student of economics between 1985 and 1987, and he sat down afterwards. He didn't want to sit down with me, thank you very much, but he wanted to sit down with his old economics teacher. And it was very, very touching and special, and the relationships that you form now will always be with you and always be part of you. And you will never have any sense that we don't want to be there to help you, and we want you also to help us, because the more you go through your own lives, the wiser you become, the more successful you become. There's that relationship that, again, doesn't end. We need you. We need your goodwill, your support, your affirmation. In whatever ways you can support us, we will flourish. It's much harder to be the University of Buckingham than it is to be one of those all those other universities. We're Britain's first independent university. We don't have the state money, the state funding behind us. We have to work much, much harder, and therefore our alumni are much more important to us than they are to the other universities, which can rely on the largesse of the state to constantly be pumping in money for tuition and for capital spending. We need you badly, and we're very, very fortunate and very blessed to have you. A quick word now, a very quick word indeed, just about one or two achievements of the individual elements in today, to highlight the fact that psychology became the Department of Psychology and Wellbeing in September, and that we were delighted to give Professor Martin Seligman, the world leader of positive psychology, an honorary degree exactly a year ago, and he was our keynote speaker at one of our many conferences in London in October. I'd like to congratulate all my colleagues in the School of Psychology for everything that you've done, for the way that you've taught our students, for the excellence, the absolute excellence and expansion of your work into so many new areas and fields. And I'd like us to have a round of applause, please, for the School of Psychology. Computing, secondly, have had a tremendous year. I've told you already about some of the highlights of computing. We are enormously grateful for everything that you have achieved in that department. And again, can we have a round of applause, please, for our entire department? And finally, for the Humanities Research Institute, which the quality of the programmes, the quality of the speakers, I can't open Sunday papers without reading reviews either of books by or reviews written by about other people's books, those who teach as part of the Humanities Research Institute. And indeed, I would encourage all of you, and indeed all your family and friends, to seriously think about taking a degree for the Humanities Research Institute. Personally, I keep thinking, I must do that, and that would be so fascinating to study biography or to study the history of the country house. There are so many wonderful, remarkable degrees that you can study taught simply by the best academics and writers, not just in this country, but in the world. They are world class. So let's have a big round of applause for everything you've achieved. And finally, just a word now about the value of kindness and how everybody might be able to give more back to the university. So we have a tradition here of invisible kindness. Invisible kindness is the kindness that doesn't shout out about everything that it's achieved. And it's deep in our soul here. What does it mean to be at the University of Buckingham? Everything that you see here at the University of Buckingham has been made possible, whether it is the achievement of our remarkable graduands or the buildings and the grounds here. Every single thing has been made possible by the goodwill, hard work and efforts of others. It's the result of the culmination of thousands of individual acts of kindness. And to allow us to continue with our work, and particularly we are keen to reach out, and we wonder why a University of Education here at Buckingham can't be available to more students from all backgrounds who might find it otherwise hard to pay. And we want to build up our funds to try and make certain that that happens. And we want to deepen this sense that we are a family here working together with a common belief in the great education that is Buckingham, the independent spirit and mindedness of an education that's Buckingham. And I want to just show you now a film, a short film, it's less than 2 minutes, that talks about our campaign. And I'd like you to consider, while you're looking at it, what you yourself might be able to, whether you might be able, in some way or other, to help us with this campaign. So we'll look at the video now on the screens.
From the first words, after the do better, work harder, struggle, judged, loneliness, just a number and not a person, and a hand reaches out.
A door opens.
Into the warmth.
From the first moment.
Friendly.
Finding strength.
My voice.
Safe to be yourself.
To stand up for yourself.
To care for others.
A way of life.
Always here.
Like a homecoming.
Part of the family.
And when you're under stress,
under duress,
depressed,
we will be here.
Time to reflect.
Dream.
Argue.
Learn.
Grow.
Love.
The unbelievable.
Unexpected.
Kindness of strangers.
To make dreams real.
Sing.
Breathe.
What it feels to give.
To receive.
My chance to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the start.
For making it okay to be me.
To make a dream come true.
To return, to give, so that others can receive, can follow in my footsteps. Invisible kindness that makes our wonderful go around and round and round as you approach like a glow on the horizon.
Congratulations to all of you for everything that you've achieved. You are remarkable. You are utterly remarkable. We are so proud of you, and thank you for everything that you have given this university, everything that you have shared with each other, And I am very confident that this special university, there's no university like Buckingham in the United Kingdom, will flourish. I think we are entering a golden period now in our history. It's taken us many years to get there, but we are really, really coming together now, and we're making a forcible impact in the university world and in national life. You're going to be at the heart of that. Thank you, and I look forward to the journey with you. I call upon the University Secretary.
Vice-Chancellor, Emeritus Professor John Clark, University Orator, will present Professor Kate Bullen for the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa.
Vice-Chancellor, our School of Medicine and our Department of Psychology are among the great success stories of the University of Buckingham. It is therefore a very great pleasure to present our honourand, who has had a distinguished and varied career in both fields and in much more besides. Professor Kate Bullen's work has spanned the NHS, the voluntary sector, and higher education. She trained originally as a therapeutic radiographer, clinical tutor, and counsellor. After working for the NHS for 10 years, she studied psychology at the University of Swansea, where she was awarded her PhD in 2001. After holding a number of academic posts, she joined the University of Aberystwyth in 2007 to develop a new psychology department. At Aberystwyth, she was University Director of Ethics and Equality. She is now Professor of Psychology and Head of the School of Applied Social Science at the University of Brighton. She is also President of the British Psychological Society. On the voluntary side, Professor Bullen established a cancer charity in South Wales in 1992, providing psychological support for patients and families. This now has branches over 3 countries and provides support to over 15,000 people each year. A long-term commitment to increasing understanding of less well-resourced male urogenital cancers led to successful research grant applications. Since 2009, she's been an expert reviewer for Prostate Cancer UK and has provided voluntary training on the psychosexual aspects of end-of-life care for healthcare professionals in Wales and more recently in the South East. Above all, Professor Bullen's career has been one of a commitment to social justice, particularly in the field of women's leadership and the development in higher education. Throughout, the common thread has been the recognition of unequal opportunities and a determination to make a difference. As a senior academic, she's been involved with the Equality Challenge Unit's Athena Swan Charter Mark scheme. Her predecessor, as president of the BPS, says of her, "I see Kate as a great force for good. She's got the capacity to think and reflect on things, to be open-minded. She listens, and at the same time she can challenge and be persistent when she needs to. She walks the talk on her commitment to inclusion and ethics. Above all, she is generous with her expertise and knowledge and never fails to help out. With all the seriousness of her purpose in life, she carries her achievements modestly and allows a fun sense of humour out to play too. Vice-Chancellor, I call upon you to confer upon Professor Kate Bullen the degree of Doctor of Science honoris causa.
By the authority of the University, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science honoris causa.
Professor Bullen will reply to convocation.
Thank you very much indeed. Vice-Chancellor, Chair of Council, honoured guests, members of faculty, ladies and gentlemen, and most importantly, graduates. I'm absolutely delighted to have been nominated by the University to receive this honorary award. Thank you so much. I do really appreciate this recognition, and I would like to thank the graduates particularly for allowing me to share this special day with them. It is a real pleasure to be here with you. Now, graduates, the brief I was given was to say something uplifting and inspirational for your graduation ceremony that marks, as the Vice-Chancellor has eloquently said, in a very public way, the beginning of the next chapter of your lives. So what I'm going to say next is addressed directly to you. Now, it probably only feels like yesterday since you first arrived at university, filled with feelings of excitement and anticipation, but also with a good measure of apprehension and anxiety. You'll have wondered who you would meet, what you would learn, and whether you would fit in and be successful. And I'm sure reflecting back on who you were then and who you are now, I'm sure that you yourselves, together with your families and your lecturers, will have seen you yourself grow and change during the experience of being a student. Over the last few years, you will have developed a very personal understanding of the transformative powers of education. And for the next few minutes, that is what I want to talk to you about. Now, I've always had a passionate commitment and belief in the power of education to change lives. I was born and brought up in Wales. And in Welsh, the word ysgol has two meanings. It means both school and ladder. And education in its broader sense is the ladder that supports and enables us to improve our own lives, the lives of others, and the societies we belong to. Your education changes you irrevocably. Because you're not the same people you were when you started your degree as freshers, but not just in the obvious ways. Of course, you have the degree that's just going to be conferred upon you. You will have developed friendships that may last you a lifetime, and yes, you may well have exciting plans for the future that include work, travel, postgraduate, postdoctoral study. You stand on the cusp of the next stage in your personal journey of transformation, and that's absolutely fantastic. You've done so well. You should be so proud, every single one of you. But although the degree and the job and the postgraduate opportunity are the very tangible products of your degree, I'm going to suggest that the even greater transformation are the more subtle benefits your education has given you. And it is those benefits that will sustain you and will continue to change your life and those of your children and your grandchildren. Now, one of my favourite philosophers, and I'm allowed to have a favourite philosopher because I'm an academic, is Søren Kierkegaard, an existential philosopher who said that whilst life is understood backwards, it must be lived forwards. And I know that you will only come to recognise the real benefits of your degree in the years to come, when you look back on your experiences at university, and the Vice-Chancellor has already spoken about this. For by reading for a degree, you have become not only a graduate, which is, if you like, the product, you've also experienced a process. That educational process has changed your attitudes, the way you think, the way that you look at the world, and the behaviours that you exhibit. You have become an educated person. And that is something that you will always retain when the facts and the stuff that you remembered for your exams are long forgotten. Now, it's fair to say that universities are having a difficult time at present. The cost of a degree is being scrutinised closely. This is challenging for universities and their staff, and potentially demoralising for students. But in focusing on higher education merely in terms of input and output, there is a danger that we fall into a trap of knowing, as Oscar Wilde caustically said, the price of everything and the value of nothing. Now, of course, we must be financially wise, both as a nation and as individuals, but we also have to recognise the societal benefits that higher education provides. For ignorance breeds suspicion and division, whereas education generates curiosity and tolerance. We all benefit as a consequence, and surely that is something to be really proud of. I honestly believe that the pathway to a better, fairer, and more inclusive society is through education and through people like you. You and your peers really are the future. But enough from me, because this is your ceremony and your opportunity to celebrate with your families and friends and your lecturers. However, I have some final thoughts and some advice. I would say to all of you, be courageous, be brave. Another Aristotelian virtue. Push yourselves, believe in your abilities, and celebrate your successes. And really importantly, surround yourselves with people who will sustain you. But above all, use your education and your voices to make a difference to others. Thank you, and good luck for the future, whatever it may hold.
Vice-Chancellor, Emeritus Professor John Clark, University Orator, will present Professor David Starkey for the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa.
Vice-Chancellor, we learn from Microcosmographica Academica, the principle of sound learning is that the noise of vulgar fame should never trouble the cloistered calm of academic existence. Hence, learning is called sound when no one has ever heard of it, and sound scholar is a term of praise applied to one another by learned men who have no reputation outside the university and a rather queer one inside it. I understand, Vice-Chancellor, that the Microcosmographica, published in Cambridge in 1908, is David Starkey's favourite book. It has to be said, however, that he has not always followed its precepts and recommendations to the letter. He is a sound scholar, yet he's famous and has a formidable reputation both inside and outside the university. In these troubled and perplexing times, it is more important than ever that the public should have a strong sense of history. Despite the deplorable state of the subject in many schools, I believe this to be the case. In the past decade, sales of history books have almost doubled, bucking publishing industry trends to 5.4 million copies a year. A sizable chunk of these sales have been made by those whose faces are familiar, not from peer-reviewed journals with a circulation of hundreds, but from the small screen. That is, from people like David Starkey. Although wide-ranging in his historical interests, Starkey's speciality is the Tudors. Here, his contribution, both at the academic and more popular level, has been equally formidable. Academically, in his Cambridge doctoral thesis, he made the important discovery of the crucial role of the Privy Chamber in Henrician government. He's also challenged the once dominant theories of Geoffrey Elton and brought about a revival of interest in the study of the court, playing a leading role in the formation of the Society for Court Studies. On the more popular level, notable television documentaries include The Six Wives of Henry VIII, Elizabeth I, Henry, Mind of a Tyrant, and Reformation, Europe's Holy War. He says of the Tudor dynasty, it is a most glorious and wonderful soap opera. It makes the House of Windsor look like a doll's house tea party. It really does. And so, these huge personalities, the whole future of countries turn on what one man feels like when he gets out of bed in the morning. Just a wonderful, wonderful personalisation of politics. Professor Starkey is famous also for some controversial remarks. When the government suggested that the core British values were democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty and mutual respect, and tolerance for those with different faiths and beliefs, Starkey suggested a different agenda of queuing, drunkenness, nostalgia, loving pets, self-loathing, wit and eccentricity. He added, in case there should be any doubt, I hate niceness. But what makes a successful television historian? Exactly the same qualities as those required in a successful university lecturer in history. An ability to connect with an audience, to convey both knowledge and passion for the subject, and an engaging, or at any rate striking personality. Unfortunately, too many academics make history so dry and dull for their students. This is the problem, not the subject itself. When imaginatively presented, history can draw people in by the coachload. We're fascinated with the past. The challenge is to harness it, and that is the challenge that our honourand has risen to so splendidly. He provides a remarkable and outstanding example of how to balance meticulous scholarship with popular appeal. Vice-Chancellor, I call upon you to confer upon Professor David Starkey the degree of Doctor of Letters honoris causa.
By the authority of the University, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Letters honoris causa.
Professor Starkey will reply to convocation.
Vice-Chancellor, members of convocation, fellow graduands, my lords, ladies and gentlemen. The Vice-Chancellor began with a magnificent picture, which indeed I helped him with, about the nature of the degree ceremony. It was rather solemn and appropriately so. But standing here, of course, takes my mind back to those experiences when he described the steps. The step of the undergraduate, the step of the master, which at Cambridge is entirely phony and is best seen as an escalator because it's false, and finally the doctorate. The memories are thick and fast. Oh, and also honorary degrees, and I suppose they are steps to heaven. And indeed, my last honorary degree took place after I'd entered to the sound of trumpets through the great west doors of Canterbury Cathedral. And fine though the church of St. Peter and St. Paul is, Vice-Chancellor, you are going to have to raise the game, especially with that comparison with Oxbridge on that point. On the other hand, the dignity of this ceremony is incomparably greater than my first memory at Cambridge, because of course in those days, and some people here may be able to tell me whether it is still the case, when you're an undergraduate and you graduated, and the Vice-Chancellor did not explain this, you performed an act of feudal homage. You actually knelt, I could no longer do this, you knelt in front of the Vice-Chancellor and you raised your hands and he enclosed his hands round yours and uttered a few well-chosen words, all of which time you had a spectacular view of his socks. And my memory is of the very large hole with vaguely whitish, bluish, I can assure, even better, we arranged that, of course, the hole with the whitish, bluish skin protruding through it, and the Vice-Chancellor, the Pro-Vice-Chancellor, actually, name was W.W. Grave, and his nickname was Taphos, which means gravestone. Well, that's the world of the Microcosmographia Academica. Let's come out of that, and let's come to now, and let's come to why you're here, and why I'm here. I suppose see myself here, and after the deeply flattering, much too kind words of the orator, I see myself here as a kind of representative of some of you graduating here in the humanities, and of course, earlier on, the arts. We, ladies and gentlemen, are a despised tribe. Nowadays, you are supposed to do a STEM subject, something important in the sciences, in physics, in chemistry, or computing. But ladies and gentlemen, and I dare to say this even with the phalanx of computing graduates in front of me, without the arts, you can't actually do the sciences. And the attempt at doing so is catastrophic. Let me illustrate in what I hope will be a very pointed fashion. The Vice-Chancellor referred in his speech to the importance of AI. In the background to AI is, of course, the extraordinary universality with which computing has entered into our lives through the World Wide Web. The World Wide Web is one of the great triumphs of British science, with, of course, Tim Berners-Lee as its author. It is also a source of profound, deep, and desperate social harm. And the fact needs to be acknowledged. And the reason for this, do you know what? It's because Tim Berners-Lee never did a degree in philosophy or political science. Because if he'd done, he would have known that the fundamental idea of the web, that is to say, I am going to set up a community which is entirely unrule-bound, is insane. Human beings are not naturally good. We need rules. And of course, if he'd done a little reading, perhaps beyond his first year in such a course, he might have encountered the two key figures in this argument. On the one hand, Thomas Hobbes, and on the other, that dreadful Frenchman, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, whose personal life is as deplorable as his philosophy. And he would have then discovered, of course, that the World Wide Web is a technical translation of the idea of the state of nature. That is man raw without the institutions of the state or law. He would have then discovered that there were two completely different views of man in the state of nature. One is Jean-Jacques Rousseau, that man is naturally good and the instruments of civilization corrupt him. And he would have then looked at the consequences of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, which is the terror of the French Revolution. He would have then turned to the more reasonable view of human nature, which is that life in the state of nature is nasty, brutish and short. By the way, that was the name of one of my friends at Cambridge who went on to an extremely distinguished academic career. Nasty, brutish and short, which is the view of Thomas Hobbes, who recognised, and here again, Vice-Chancellor, with all the talk of kindness, human beings are not only kind, they are frequently vicious and cruel and competitive, especially, it has to be said, in history, where my friend, the late Kevin Sharp, said the collective noun for a group of historians was a malice of historians. We need rules and we need values. And it is in the arts and the social sciences that you will find those. So Tim Berners-Lee is one example I want to give you. The other example is one that comes much nearer home thanks to your MP, whose name I shall not even mention. That is the catastrophe, because it is a catastrophe, of Brexit. What has gone wrong? What has gone wrong was that the case for Remain was presented catastrophically. It was presented purely in terms of pounds, shillings and pence. Ladies and gentlemen, somebody once said, Jesus Christ, man shall not live by bread alone. Somebody that we generally speaking nowadays pay more attention to, that is to say Oscar Wilde, rephrased it, there are those who know the price of everything and the value of nothing. Brexit is a struggle over values. And until we recognise that, and it takes somebody who has a sense of history, a sense of philosophy, a sense of psychology to realise that, we will get nowhere. Because what we do in the arts and humanities is answer to the most profound needs of man. Indeed, food, shelter, all the lovely things that come with consumer society. But essentially, we are value-seeking animals. We want meaning. We want meaning in our lives, which is why, of course, we construct those great narratives. The narratives of religion, the narratives of fiction and of poetry. And above all, I would say, the narratives of history. You have been studying those. Benefit from them, communicate, and above all, try to convert those who are simply good at maths. Vice-Chancellor, thank you.
Vice-Chancellor, I call upon Professor John Clapham, Pro-Vice-Chancellor, Health Sciences and Research, to present candidates for degrees of the University of Buckingham in Clinical Medicine and for the degrees of Bachelor of Science from Medipathways.
Vice-Chancellor, I present to you graduands in Internal Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. For the degree of Doctor of Medicine, Zishan Ahmed. Fayez Amir Farouk. Suchitra Gattomanani. Ho Hu Hitte. Piers Jain. Sophia Marsh. Rohan Raju Palfinkal. Shirin Fang Patel. Shamshed Begum Puliayath Mitai. Naya Shekhar. Nikunj Priya Shekharat. Bhavyati Abi. Zaira Safa. Bachelor of Science in Biomedical Sciences from MediPathways, Abhi Rasmiva Braharan. Kirsty Hartshorn. Shivani Howell. Divya Larissa. Prashant Makwana. Aya Mohammed. And Sami Rasan. Chancellor, that concludes the presentation.
Vice-Chancellor, I call upon Dr. Alan Martin, Dean of the School of Psychology and Wellbeing, to present candidates for degrees at the University of Buckingham in Psychology.
Vice-Chancellor, I present to you the graduates in Psychology. The degree of Master of Science in Psychology by Research, Biowepo Delphine Halabangam. For the degree of Master of Science in Health Psychology, Jenna Louise Gillett. Sabina Hussain. Priyanjali Maheshini Marguerite Ratwapa. And for the degree of Bachelor of Science, Doria Andel. Navjot Bajra. Alicia Baldwin. Olivia Bishop. Kyle Buckingham. Trudy Kamies. Annabelle Charlotte Chester. Ellie Clark. Anna Zoe Eldred. Kimberly Evans. Miles William Fahan. Shannon Paige Amelia Gibson. Jade Marie Glover. Guinevere Sophia Grimley. Eleni Angela Inman. Amelia Kelly. Dylan Murray Lloyd. Katerina MacLeod. Anna May Martin. Esme Martin. Amy Georgina McCarroll. Sasha Molyneux. Nees Ravi Nair. Chiesa Justina Campos Pachero. Alyssa Louise Porter. Jemima Rose Price. Bethany Louise Probert. Lily Saunders. Alma Charlotte Schlegel. Amy Shelford. Amatanwa Fatimat Shalarin. Aaron Sivapuniya. Kiratiga Skantathiva. Kiratiga Skantathiva. Monica Stackhouse-Katie. And Freya Stacey Wright. Vice-Chancellor, that concludes the presentation.
Vice-Chancellor, I call upon Dr. Harin Salahewa, Interim Dean of the School of Computing, to present candidates for degrees at the University of Buckingham in Applied Computing and graduates from the Sarajevo School of Science and Technology.
Vice-Chancellor, I present to you the graduates in computing. For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Computing, Dharmesh Seamus Deva. Nasiru Ibrahim. For the degree of Master of Science in Applied Computing, Ramandeep Kaur. For the degree of Master of Science in Innovative Computing, Praveen Kumar Guntoju. Tasneem Rahman. And for the degree of Bachelor of Science, Godwin Adejo Ebikuo. Chris Paul Bugit King. Alicia Mahajan. Marcin Kunik. Sahan Shariari. Remus Young. Vice Chancellor, I present to you the graduates from the Sarajevo School of Science and Technology. For the degree of Master of Science in Computing by Research, Amar Shraka. And for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Political Science and International Relations, Hannah Brashkalich. Vice Chancellor, that concludes the presentation.
Vice Chancellor, I call upon Professor John Adamson, Director of the Humanities Research Institute, to present candidates for doctoral degrees of the University of Buckingham in History of Art and History of Architecture.
Vice Chancellor, I present to you the graduates of the School of Humanities for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. James Douglas Broomfield. Granville Charles Gomer Gordon, 13th Marquess of Huntly. Vice Chancellor, that concludes the presentation.
Vice Chancellor, I call upon Professor Saul David to present candidates for master's degrees of the University of Buckingham's Humanities Research Institute.
Vice Chancellor, I present to you the graduands of the Humanities Research Institute. For the degree of Master of Arts in Military History by Research, Jeremy Archer. Michael Curran. Niels Richard Leonard Frank. For the degree of Master of Arts in Modern War and Contemporary Military History by Research, Funmilayo Akanke Falebi. For the degree of Master of Arts in International Affairs and Diplomacy by Research, Mirela Minty. For the degree of Master of Arts in Archaeology by Research, Annette Jane Bascom Brown. Harriet Jocasta Gwynne Jennings. For the degree of Master of Arts in the History of Sport by Research, Samir Jafani. Alistair Gordon Mill. Jeff Skinner. For the degree of Master of Arts in Philosophy by Research, Ian Jeffrey Brown. George Carter. Samuel David Collins. Michael Connolly. Sebastian Ivan John Morello. And for the degree of Master of Arts in Tudor History by Research, Christine Mary Bueno. Michael Stokes. Vice-Chancellor, that concludes the presentation.
Vice-Chancellor, I call upon Jeremy Howard, Senior Lecturer in History of Art, to present candidates for Master's degrees at the University of Buckingham in the Department of History and History of Art.
Vice-Chancellor, I present to you the graduands from the Art Market and History of Collecting, the English Country House and the History of Art. For the degree of Master of Arts in the English Country House by Research, John Colin Davis. For the degree of Master of Arts in History of Art, Renaissance to Modernism by Research, Sandra Mary Hulbert. Michael Davis. Gabriela Leches. And for the degree of Master of Laws in International and Commercial Law, Michelle Antoinette Thompson. Vice-Chancellor, that concludes the presentation.
Vice-Chancellor, I call upon you to confer degrees upon candidates whose names have been published in the programme but who are unable to be present here this afternoon.
By the authority of the University, I admit candidates in absentia to the degrees and the diplomas for which they have qualified.
This concludes the presentation of graduands at this convocation. Vice-Chancellor, the University Prize for Academic Distinction is awarded for exceptional academic performance during undergraduate studies at Buckingham. The prize will be presented by Mr. Chris Smith, a European Studies alumnus, the donor, and the winner for 2019 is from the School of Computing, Ms. Alicia Mahajan. The Vice-Chancellor will now close convocation.
Well, what a wonderful, moving ceremony that was, and can I thank all of you for your patience. At the end of the day, it has been quite a long ceremony, but I feel absolutely right to give everybody the time that they had. And it was completely delightful to spend just a few moments with each and every candidate. Where I could, I asked them whether they had enjoyed their time with us, and often comments were about how stimulating the course was. When I asked George, however, his eyes completely lit up, and I thought George was going to tell me that he's now become a convert to academic life forever. But George told me that it was wonderful because he met his wife. So I think we have a round of applause there for George, and George, stand up. George, stand up. I was reminded of an occasion last year where I was conferring a degree on a 94-year-old who had been on D-Day, and as he came up, I said, if there's only one regretful sadness about this event today, this special event, it is that your mum and dad can't be here to see it happen. And he gave me a completely stony stare, and I to this day, I don't know whether, in fact, he didn't hear me or whether I said something really that upset him. Anyway, I shall never know. Although I hope he is still with us, very much. So I just want to just quick passing word about Sarajevo, the 2 degrees there. Sarajevo, that's one of many connections we owe to Lady Thatcher, our wonderful university in Sarajevo. We're very proud of our relationship with you. And I just want to say also, Professor Kate Bullen, to what an honour it is to have you with your deeply distinguished academic career and President of the British Psychological Society, the absolute apex of your profession of academic psychology. So another round of applause, please, for what you said. And Professor David Starkey, one of the most distinguished academic historians, not just on the Tudor, but on any period, one of the 5 best known and most distinguished. Being best known is all right, but to be distinguished is infinitely better. You showed us quite why you are such a distinguished academic and writer with your perceptive understanding, going right to the truth. And by the way, just to say that we have set up, to that very point you mentioned about Tim Berners-Lee and the internet, we have set up here the Institute for the Ethics of AI precisely to provide those checks and balances, because we are more Hobbesian here than we are Rousseauian about the state of nature. So you'll be comforted and relieved about that. Professor Starkey, what an honour to have you with us, and thank you again for your speech. It has been a deeply moving and a very, very wonderful ceremony. Thank you, parents, thank you, friends, for being here today, for making it so. To all those who came up and are now graduates, postgraduates, recipients of your degrees, very, very many congratulations. We are so proud to have your relationship, our relationship with you, and that relationship carrying on forever. We want that to be part of your life forever. Can I just ask, finally, your indulgence to say thank you to all my staff around the room here, the academic staff, extremely distinguished up here on the platform, and the support staff and other carers all the way around the building. And it includes Colin Stocker, our outstanding head of states, who was responsible for erecting the building that you see, good to see the Vincent building. So to all the staff, can we have a big warm round of applause? I'll never forget this ceremony. Thank you for making it so memorable and so deeply special. And I hereby declare this ceremony is now concluded. Thank you.